Great. My name's Adam Smith. As you know, the company is Beyond the Book. The company was founded by Anna Smith and Sally Moyes, who are my business partners, and that was 15 years ago. We're in the marketing and creative space. There's currently 15 in the business. We're around 20% freelance and 80% perm, or freelance contract and 80% perm. And we're based in the Midlands, but we cover the whole of the UK, and we're currently dipping our toe in the US as well.
Excellent. So I'm Abigail Stevens, and the founding managing director of Think Global Recruitment. We also have about 15 staff, and our staff are actually positioned all over the world because we all work 100% remotely. So I have people in Scotland, in Wales, in England, in Spain, in Portugal, in Canada, in Colombia. So pretty international.
Amazing.
And we do perm recruitment. We move accountants all over the world, literally from any country to any country.
Fantastic.
We've been established for 23 years. I might just add that in.
Wow. Wow. This is quite interesting because you're a very different model to us. So I think this will be an interesting chat around that, especially when we get to some of the hybrid stuff that we're coming to terms with. Okay, the first question, the sort of first of two initial questions were, what are some of the key changes we've seen across the world of recruitment over the last 12 to 18 months? Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a few things that I think have changed quite radically in the last 12 to 18 months. I guess one of the subjects which Mark's kind of touched on a little bit now, we're going to touch on a bit more later, is IT. The amount of apps that are now available to be involved in the recruitment process are absolutely phenomenal, and automation has become just a massive thing, and sometimes a bit mind-boggling over what do you do, which ones do you go with, what works best, how to make them work, and all of that. Yeah,
and they're expensive, aren't they, as well?
Yeah, and expensive.
And getting adoption and using them then is the challenge. They can seem really like a great idea, but actually getting that to reality is sometimes quite difficult.
It really is. You have to do a lot of monitoring, checking things where they're being used, why they're not being used, talking to the team, coaching. That whole adoption piece is so important.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, my thoughts on the last 18 months were, it's kind of weird, isn't it? So it's, I hate going back to saying sort of since COVID or whatever, but it was a real sort of complete change. And it's almost like this second half since COVID, so the last 18 months, has almost gone through a quite a similar pattern in some ways, not as drastic, but we had obviously 18 months ago, we were just starting our really, it went crazy, didn't it, recruitment? I'm pretty sure most people would say that, maybe not everyone, but most people would say that. But in the last 6 months, it's really steadied. And I think what we're starting to see, it's not as it was, for example, when we came out of lockdowns and all that sort of thing, but it definitely has gone back to a bit more of that. And I think it's, for us, it's driving clients' behavior a little bit. They spent quite a lot of money in the last 12 months. Maybe they've made a few mistakes. Everything was a bit frantic. Now business is slowed and they want to start doing their own recruitment again. That's something that we've noticed, that we did notice 2 years ago. And it's just taking them through that kind of education piece when sometimes people don't fully understand what's involved in doing recruitment. So they say, I'm going to do my own recruitment, but actually there's lots of gaps. Then it doesn't happen. Then they might panic a bit. Then they might go multi-recruiter. So it kind of, we're having to grapple with all those things again, and just try and have sort of really meaningful conversations with clients to sort of tie them back in and talk about partnerships and all that kind of thing.
We've seen that extensively in our market too. Definitely there was a lot of over recruitment post COVID, none during COVID, then over recruitment, and now there's a bit of a holdback. But we're actually seeing it more in the UK than other locations. Interestingly, because the UK seems to be affected a lot more. We're not doing a lot into America, but I believe America might be actually in a similar trend at the moment. But the UK definitely is sort of like pulling the brakes on a little bit on things. And there is that when they're putting a job out, they're just putting it out to hundreds of companies not realizing the benefits of actually going with the one organization that can really drill down and give them the time of day to do it properly. A lot of
Yeah, no,
education needed.
no, absolutely. And on the candidate side, there's been well, when there were loads of jobs, it was kind of hard to pin candidates down. They had all the choice. Now there's fewer, but there doesn't seem to be loads more candidates. So it's almost a bit job light and a little bit candidate light. That's still for us anyway. I mean, I know every sector is different, but quite difficult again. So it's been starting to look at really getting close to clients and really getting close to candidates and sticking to them and knowing what they're doing. And even if we don't place them, where have they gone? And can we carry on the conversation and thinking more long term? So I just think what else I noted down. We've found now this is where it's interesting because you all these things I'm going to say you're going to go, we probably don't do that anyway, but physical client visits were always really we thought made the difference for us. We could get in, we could see where the environment, we could really build that relationship with the client. But we found that increasingly difficult sort of post-COVID and certainly the last 12, 18 months. We're kind of thinking through how we can either do it differently or how we can achieve what we're trying to achieve by going and visit clients.
Yeah, it's I agree that clients are far more reluctant to give us briefings, to go into detail, etc., and give us that time. But one thing they do seem to be very keen on post-COVID, which I think has increased for us and got better, is that they will organise a Teams call with us. When we can get them, when we push for it, we're getting Teams calls in. Whereas historically, you had to keep canvassing on the phone, and they may or may not pick up. Now. They still don't do that so much, but if we message them, then they're quite happy to book in advance a Teams call, which helps. We do go and visit sometimes. So I was out in Australia and New Zealand visiting companies face to face earlier this year, and they really appreciated that as well. There was, but that was because I was flying in, I think, and that whole thing of we're coming in to do this made a big deal.
Or maybe people have just got into the habit of that's kind of how we do it. I think you're right. You get to probably see more faces now because it's quicker to video.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just a case of keeping trying and really trying to push out. And people do, like you say. I know, obviously, you went all the way over to see them, but even so, a trip out to see a client could be seen as making an effort. And once you do it, everyone might be able to see the benefits. Maybe.
Yeah, and I think they help, but I do wonder if maybe your team that are trying to get the face-to-face, try the face-to-face on video, and if or any teams that's maybe one way. A lot of people just seem to be so much more comfortable with that, and some of it is they're just not in the office. I know sometimes I've said I'm going through to Glasgow, say I'm in Edinburgh at the moment, I'm coming through to Glasgow for the day, and they go, I'm not in the office that day.
Yeah, right.
Because of the hybrid working now.
That's become even more tricky, hasn't it? Sort of where people are and where they are when. Yeah, absolutely. Did you have anything else on the last 12 to 18 months?
I would say that recruitment consultants and people within the business have changed a little bit as well. Have our candidates, just in the whole their thought path and their psyche on what they want to do, what motivates them, how they want to work. There's a lot more of that. Hybrid working is coming into all areas, but both our clients and candidates are wanting it, plus our staff are wanting that more flexibility, better work-life balances, all of those things.
So did you have a change then? So were you always sort of fully remote people all around the world?
No, we decided to do it during lockdown. So
okay.
Literally beginning of lockdown, we moved to home working. We've always had the capability to work from anywhere, because I've traveled in 23 years, always all over the world, and embraced some of the very earliest push technology that was out there, etc. But we've always been able to work from overseas, but we never actually thought about taking everybody to home. And it was more that there was a shortage of really good recruitment consultants on the market leading up to lockdown. And when lockdown happened, obviously there was a few in the market, some really good people coming out. And we said, well, why hire the best people in Edinburgh? Let's hire the best people in the world.
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. And you just went from that to that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we did, but we did, as I said, we had the infrastructure from an IT point of view
yeah,
already. We've had to pay a lot of attention to other areas of it,
yes.
and to get it so that it works.
Well, that
Um,
will be
yeah,
really interesting when we get onto the hybrid thing. That'll be really interesting
absolutely.
to talk about that. So the other sort of core question was now looking to what do we think the future looks like? I mean, that's always quite tricky, isn't it? Have you got I've got
It
a few
is.
thoughts, but have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I'm an eternal optimist, so I don't agree with where people talk about doom and gloom in the economy. I'm always thinking, yeah, it's going to be all right round the corner. But I
Yeah,
do actually genuinely, from my research, from what I see, I think we did have that sort of no hiring, over hiring, stabilizing now, and
yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot more hiring going on next year.
yeah,
Probably Q2, we're looking at the financial year, the year from a calendar year.
yeah,
But yeah, I do feel that things will pick up next year. They'll get very interesting. The companies that have tried all this automation or doing their own way of doing it are going to hopefully be
yeah.
looking more at other ways to recruit.
Yes, and I think my thoughts were it's about it's really we're moving into now having to have those relationships. So having that educating, it's got to be all about that educating clients how it can work, what the benefits are, um, having those relationships that are long term,
Mm-hmm.
um, adding value. It's really I think thinking of recruitment as a proper partnership with people. I really hope. I mean, we've been talking about it for quite a few years, haven't we? And it does move that way, but sometimes it feels like we're still pushing against people who just go out to three or four different recruiters and it doesn't work. And for the long term, it doesn't. It's expensive. All those arguments around why that really just doesn't work for anyone. But we're still kind of battling that. I'm hoping, as same as you, sort of eternally optimistic that we will start to really make that progress as an industry, and people will start to really understand what makes good recruitment and why it is when it's good, why it's great, and why it
Yeah,
has so many sort of huge ramifications for them. So I think it's all about that. I think it's understanding clients, what they're getting close to them is knowing their plans, isn't it, as well? So,
mm,
and it's easier said than done. Everything tends to be quite real. Well, for us, certainly can tend to be quite reactive, but we've kind of set up this idea we've called watch lists, where in a conversation, to get a conversation, it doesn't have to be you've got something right here, right now with the client. It can be, look, what are your plans? Can we, even if it's 9 months away, can we kind of be on the lookout if someone pops up who's just ideal for you? Do you mind if we introduce them to you? And just sort of get that kind of idea that we're not, that we're continuously working on their behalf. I just think all that stuff
yeah.
is going to become more and more important.
I
Um,
100%, and I think that's what's with the downturn in the economy. We've seen enough of them over the years, and actually a couple of big recessions. Where when that happens, obviously the companies that don't survive are probably the ones that don't do that, the ones that aren't building
yeah,
relationships, and they struggle a bit.
yeah,
So coming out of that, I'm hoping that the consultancies that are still out there are the ones who are pushing these great
yeah,
service ethics, the way that you build partnerships, and then more and more companies are going to realize the benefit of doing it that
yeah,
way, and they're
yeah.
hearing it from more people, and they can choose who they're going to do it with. But less of the people saying, oh, it's all right, we're just going to throw you hundreds of CVs anyway.
Yeah,
That's when
they
it's
don't help.
difficult.
They don't help the cause, do they?
Yeah, no, the false promises and the rubbish CVs
Yeah.
and all of that don't help the cause.
No, no, they don't. Absolutely. Um, shall we move on to one of the other questions?
Why not?
What I don't know what order you want to do it in. I was thinking maybe a good move on from there was what do what are our good recruiters doing right now?
Yeah,
It's probably similar kind of answer, isn't it? But thinking on an individual level, I think recruiters have had to. I think it's been such a weird 3 years, even weirder than recruitment is normally, that it, people have had to be kind of good recruiters have had to be self starters more than ever before and have that kind of drive. Um, and just be those. And it kind of ties into some of the thoughts on automation and AI and all that kind of thing. But I think already good recruiters have had to be good at those really important human things. So the things that machines can't yet do. The building relationships, the being, the being organized and being strategic about what they do. I just think that those are the kind of things that good recruiters are doing at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It's all about that adding value and being seen to do it. We can come up with market information. We can have honest discussions with our clients. We can,
Yeah.
I think, keeping that open channel and really sort of giving them the true, honest feedback on things. And using data around you to get that information can be very useful as well. But using what's available to us to add value, but and also I think at the moment, being focused on what we do, we're spending a lot of time looking at the companies we're working with, because there are these companies that are very happy to get you to work for free, put a lot of effort in, and then say, oh well, we've only got all these other CVs from everywhere else, so we've done our own recruitment, whatever it is, or we changed our mind, and then it's just being focused on the ones that really are going to turn into something. We've been analysing our client base, and really working out how we can network further within and build better relationships within the ones that really shine out as good clients, and then network further in those businesses. So I think thinking smart as well.
No, definitely. And looking at the numbers, not going too overboard on that, but just getting everyone to really understand. I think a good recruiter understands the numbers and the ratios really.
Yes.
And they understand how important conversion is. The difference between placing 5 out of 10 jobs, placing 8 out of 10 jobs, and what that means from a time point of view is just huge, isn't it? But then also realizing what it takes to get to those placements and understanding, typically I have to generally send this many CVs to get this many interviews, and typically I have to get this many interviews to get these many placements, and it all changes. You can't ever look at one thing because it's moving all the time, but just to have that awareness of, is there enough of the right stuff kind of going in the funnel? And it seems really straightforward, but actually the good recruiters really think like that, I think, and they understand why they're doing what they're doing, because it's going to kind of end up with that at the end.
I agree. I think they've got it easier than many recruiters in history, because it's much easier to get your ratios these days with the type of stats that are usually available to us. So than to use their commercial acumen and think, well, that makes that and that and that, this is what I need to do. It's great. There is always the recruiters that hate being managed by KPIs and etc. But if they manage their own KPIs and work out what they need to do to get their results, then it is a bit of a numbers game at the end of the day.
And it's really quality, though. Definitely, it's really interesting, because that's a really good point. You can't just have blanket ratios and KPIs. What we're experimenting with at the moment is we've kind of looked at each desk and spoken to that consultant and said, right, let's look at what you've been doing on your desk, because your desk is different sector. You're doing it. You work in your sort of special way. Let's look at your ratios. Let's see where you'd like to get to, and then base it around that. So every single consultant here has got a different target in a way, but it's not a target. It's a look, we've all agreed that's kind of what needs to happen to get where we want to. Now, we might find that we do twice as well on the conversions. Brilliant. That's great. And then we'll relook and we'll reanalyze it. But just to have something to hang on to and kind of refer back to, I think is really important. So how we support them is really important as well.
Yeah, totally.
And there is a lot of tech.
There is, and I guess that's some of the good recruiters as well, what the challenge they have at the moment is to work out what tech works for them and what doesn't. And we notice across the business now that some people embrace some technology more than others. Some don't embrace any at all. And we've started doing, instead of blanket getting licenses for everyone for everything, it's a case of who is going to use it, and if you don't use it, you lose it. And they don't care. And we have that conversation, say, look, you're not using this, but is that okay if we take this away from you? And the conversation generally be, I don't really need that, but I would love this. So,
you get me on my supplier bugbear of it being very easy to scale up but impossible to scale back down again. That's the problem, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
can be, absolutely. Yeah, we're having to be a bit tighter now so we don't scale up too quickly on them.
Yeah.
And it is, really looking at the ROI. And I think when you're choosing the suppliers, that's actually one of the criteria we've now got, is we need to be able to see the reporting of whether it's being utilized or not. And if they can't demonstrate, then I'm not going to take it on, because it's too random to know whether it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally agree. Totally agree. Just looking, any other notes I've made? Yeah, I think, and then just one other thing I think about the, what a good recruiter's doing right now is really understanding their clients and what the client's pain points are. What's frustrating the clients. I think that's because when it comes to putting stuff out on social or trying to engage, it's understanding that bit. I think, rather than us always just talking about recruitment and how good we are at recruitment and we've got a candidate and that kind of thing, which is great as well. But it's just really thinking, what do they need and how maybe can I sort of help them to learn a bit more about that or whatever it is. So that's, I think, the
I
good
think that's very
recruiters are doing that.
true. And you did bring up a good point there. What good recruiters are doing at the moment is making themselves a bit more famous than they used to.
Yeah.
And that's another step that's a bit more trickier, but getting used to using videos and putting more out there so that the world comes to them, getting inbound marketing rather than, consistently going out. But when they go out, they want to have a very good profile that people can view. So that's another sort of challenge, I guess, for them at the moment.
Yeah, and some people just, it's more difficult for them, and
Yeah.
and I can relate to that. I had to gear myself up for this today, but
Yeah,
it's
no, me
it
too.
yeah, but it's so impactful.
Yeah.
So if people can do it, I think it's just, it's been proven to be really,
Yeah.
really successful.
I think to lead myself up to it this week, I did a few videos this week just for that reason, to see
Did
how
you?
impactful it would be. Yeah. Oh my God,
Uh,
the results are amazing. 1,500 impressions just on a video about why
I,
when I was 21, I went to Australia. And
amazing. That's
it's
great, though, isn't
amazing.
it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm terrible at that. So I'm
Mm.
sure our team would say that I'm terrible at that. So I probably need to get better at that and walk the walk a little bit more. Yeah. Um, we've got a couple of other things we can talk about. It's a whole technology thing.
Yeah.
Um, will will technology? These are the two questions that I think we read. Will technology replace the roles of recruiters? And then very similar to that was, do automations dehumanize the recruitment process? Should we
Yeah.
do those? Any
Yep,
thought?
absolutely. They're going to take all our jobs.
Yeah.
No, I think
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I think there's in fact, we even know it for facts from the whole dehumanization thing. A couple of our company clients recently have started doing first interviews as a video to candidates, and they just send them this inhumane request to record themselves answering questions with not even a person asking the question, not even a
Oh,
recording of
wow.
the person asking the questions. It's
Yeah.
just a question comes on the screen and you have to answer it in a candidate-driven market, which we are still a candidate-driven market.
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
there's less jobs, there's still not
Yeah.
enough candidates for us. And it's
Yeah.
really amazing. But we also use Recruiter Insider, who
Yeah. So,
will then get all our candidates to give feedback. And you can see immensely the candidates that have to go through an interview process, that's a video interview first, totally mark that company down.
right.
So we've got hard evidence that it
Yeah.
isn't a nice experience for them. We had a job turned down this week. The candidate had an option. Well, they took one of ours, luckily, but they had an option of the company that had the video interview as their first interview and the company that met them. And they went with the company that met them. And that was the reason they gave.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, sometimes it's sort of tech for tech's sake, isn't it? And I suppose it's sold as time saving, maybe. Um,
Yeah, but to be honest, the
what's
way that
achieved?
they work, these companies, I mean, they take ages to get the video out, they give them ages to record it, they then take ages to review it. By the time you've done all that, the person's had 2 interviews elsewhere face to face and got another job. So
Yeah, so it's not time
yeah,
saving. Yeah, and also I wouldn't like to do that.
no, it's just it put me off. I wouldn't want to work for a company that felt that was the best first interview, because to me an interview should be a two-way thing where the candidate
Yeah,
learns about you as well as you learn about them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then there's we're seeing an increasing now number of candidates telling us how, when they say, oh, where else have you applied, and they go, I've applied here, applied there, or whatever, when they say it, they go, oh, but we got one of those usual automated responses that rejected me, and they presume now they're being rejected by robots. That's become a thing.
I think they
And
might
that's
be.
black marking some companies.
Yeah, yes. Well, we've always commented, because we get those from suppliers trying to, all that suppliers trying to sell to you stuff. And for me, it's just blindingly obvious that it's it's email number 3. And I know there are some companies out there who do this really well, but our experience, not of recruitment companies, but of people emailing us, is it's awful, and they're just it just doesn't work at all. So I think you've got to be careful with how you do it, don't you? But clearly, the tech side has got to be about efficiencies. I mean, that will definitely happen, won't it? I mean, because recruitment is it is getting more and more expensive to run a recruitment company. There's a lot of tech, sort of really good tech, but at some point we need the efficiencies in there, I think. And clearly that's where the tech, the AI will go first. There are loads of parts of a recruiter's job that they'd probably rather not do, and actually they're not. It's not their talent. Their talent is with people, isn't it? Talking to people, building relationships, doing the difficult stuff. So properly matching, seeing one culture and matching it with the candidate, handling a counter offer, just the really delicate kind of stuff that's finding out all about a candidate, so that you're kind of asking questions before they come up, and right from the start of the process. Now, probably one day, robots, when they're like human robots or something, they'll be able to do all that stuff. But I think that's not happening yet. So I think the question being, will technology replace the roles? I think it will replace the bits that actually get in the way of being a really good recruiter.
I think our job, as the business owners, one of the jobs that my co-partner and I have anyways, we said we will look at any IT that's going to make the job easier for consultants to be longer in communication directly with the candidates and clients. So anything we automate, anything we put in place, is the idea is just to give them more face-to-face time with those candidates and clients. And that's the enabling them to do their job easier. But then, as you say, you need that face-to-face. I guess other examples of where you can't just replace it with AI is, if we ever look at any candidate that's fallen out of the process, God forbid, it doesn't happen too often, but when it does happen, and we go back, we can see that candidate wasn't kept in touch with enough during lead ups to start dates, etc. And we do have longer leads because we wait for visas, and that's can a robot replace that? Or these days, quite often the consultants can very easily start chatting on WhatsApp to the candidate. Hey, you all right? Candidate goes, yeah, I'm fine. Now you can't tell them whether they're saying, yeah, I'm fine, or yes, I'm fine. There's a difference. A human needs to be involved to actually get the tone, intensity, etc. I believe.
Yes. And the AI, the technology can do that tech stuff, can't it? And that's the bit that's missing. So you're absolutely right. It needs to be focused on how can we be having more and more conversations. But you think if you could arguably, with all the nonsense that goes around with organising a recruitment desk and planning stuff, and just the admin, even if you're quite good on the admin, you must be able to you free up 30% of a job. So then if you then move that to, right, well, let's just talk to candidates that I haven't talked to for a while, because that's always the stuff that falls by the wayside, understandably, because everyone's really busy. If you can do 30% more of that, that's going to unearth so many more opportunities. People who've moved to new companies and they're now hiring managers, or whatever it is. I just think that's what it's going to do. So it's just going to make better and better recruiters, but they're going to be a certain type of recruiter.
Yeah.
Do you do those email automations?
We've got Sourcewell.
Okay.
but we're very, very careful with the campaigns. We've done a lot of training on it, and we'll make sure that the campaigns, they're not also just one email after another. There's other interactions like phone calls, LinkedIn connections, chatting on LinkedIn, or interacting on posts on LinkedIn, as well as each message just has to be really carefully checked before it goes. So you set up your chain, but each one is individually personalized and with things that are only applicable to that person you're contacting.
Okay, that makes sense.
And we did get 3 new pieces of business this week just from automation, so it does sort of work, but it's getting it right, and we're getting better at it, I'd say.
So do you think that the biggest part of that is people, it's just the follow-up, because that's always where it kind of falls down, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's usually about the 3rd and 4th or even 7th contact, somewhere between those that we get it. So contact number 1 usually gets ignored, contact number 2 can be ignored, but 3, they usually come back by the time you got to number 3. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer chipping away, but at least the system's just doing that for you. So yeah, it's a build up, and definitely I think and that's something you've got to remember to do for yourself. If you don't have not everyone in our company has chosen the automation because they don't like it. So they don't like IT, so they're not working with it, and they're still getting good results. But I do see now it's getting better that we're homing in and working out the right wording on it. Source was improved as well. It gives you a lot of ratings when you write your email and tells you what words you should or shouldn't use in there. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, sounds good. Excuse me. Okay, how long have we got?
So was the idea to do about half an hour?
Yeah.
We're probably coming up to that then.
Are we?
Yeah. It's half a
let's say we started slightly late. Oh god, we've had half an hour.
Do the last question, shall
we? Hybrid working. I'm just really keen because we the question is it getting a bit too easy for recruiters right now with all the hybrid? I would say absolutely not. I think if anything, everyone's been adjusting to it. It kind of happened, didn't it? We've gone to 2 days a week in, 3 days a week working from home. You can choose your 2 days when they are, but we don't open on a Friday, actually the office. And then we have one team day a month where everyone comes in on that one day. So that's everyone together for one day, which works.
Yeah.
It works. I think it's I just think it depends on the person. I think hybrid working can seem great and it suits people. It can seem great and it actually doesn't suit people. It seems crazy that you wouldn't get people in all the time, but there's questions like, how do you onboard? I know you have the answers to all of these, I know, which is great. How do you onboard? What if someone starts to struggle, once established, and you want to have a bit more concentration time, all that kind of thing. So that's kind of what we're going around thinking. Also what we find, just one final thing, is that people on the days, people kind of choose their days. Now it can be people are in the office, but it's like 3 people in. So then everyone starts to think, well, what's the point of being in? I'm just kind of in for the sake of it. And so it's raising some interesting questions.
Yeah. No, I can imagine that. We did go from all to nothing. So we didn't have the hybrid beforehand.
No, there's something about that.
Which is interesting. But there's an awful lot of things we had to put in place to make sure that people still felt part of a team, that we felt confidence as business owners that our culture would still be the way it should be, that everybody was singing from the same hymn sheet, going for common goals, etc. And we have found it works for some people and doesn't work for others. So we hire now people that we feel have already had experience doing in remote working. They know that it's something they enjoy doing. They can give examples of succeeding at doing it, and they say certain things when you're interviewing them that make you believe, you can tell that it is something they're really up for. We recently made a mistake with a returnee, because they worked for us for 6-7 years, and they'd gotten really, they did a really good job, but that was when we were in an office, and then we just hired them back, and without going through those normal questions that we ask every new person that we didn't know about whether they like working remotely, and they hated it. So it's definitely for some trainees, it's much harder with, because you know, providing training for someone that's had no idea of recruitment, it's very hard for them and the younger people to get into that ethos. Whereas I think the people we have, they love it. They've got reasons to do hybrid, or to work from home rather, and, you know, sort of have more flexibility in their hours, less traveling. We use Microsoft Teams because you need that constant interaction to be able to message each other, to be able to, you know, call somebody if you need them. We've got a great system that we're using now called Buzz Hubs. And that basically is like a little dashboard. It shows us who's in, who's not in. It automates with our database, and it pops up every time, say, an interview goes on the interview board, which in the office you'd had a physical interview board. Now we've got this virtual chain coming up saying so-and-so's interviewing with so-and-so, so-and-so's placed with so-and-so, so the team can still see all that. And anything good news goes on there, the news flashes, all those types of things. So having that access, and then your regular meetings every week, so you still have a team meeting, you still can set up micro team meetings as well as wrap up on a Friday, and it's all meeting online with video to chat as though you're in an office.
Really interesting.
But I think a lot of models it might not work with is particularly if you've got that you know, rookies coming in, trainees, and people that need a lot of nurturing. Yes,
and it works for us. It's just it's just certain elements of it, finding our way with it, I think, and it's that quiet office thing which we want to, you know,
when you are
it's
in,
weird because depending on what you're doing in that day, so if I've got my head in a spreadsheet or something, I might think, oh, nothing's going on. But someone who's been, say Anna, who's been doing sort of coaching calls or whatever, she's saying, oh, it's felt really busy today, and this is all remote, you know, it's all on video. So I think you can create just that feeling of the buzz. That's what you're trying to get to, as well as obviously the benefits are for people who like it, they can crack on and do their job with no interruption. So and
that's good.
To answer the question, I don't think they've got it easy. It's
no, I think it's tricky. You've really got to motivate yourself, and you've got to give yourself a kick still, and you know, you need to then be focused on what you do and have a reason to do it. I think if someone's not enjoying recruitment, or that, you know, it does sift out who enjoys it, because if you haven't got a reason to be doing it, if you're not really got that end goal of saying, you know, I need commission, so I'm going to do this, or whatever it is that motivates you, I'm going to improve some lives, then you're working from home is impossible.
No, definitely. Great. I suppose we better wrap up there then. We've gone on a bit. That went really quick.
It did, didn't it?